Hello, and thank you for joining. Before we begin today's discussion, I'd like to go over a few housekeeping items. My name is Elisa Zanola, and I'm head of events for the Fashion Scholarship Fund. As many of us are incredibly familiar with Zoom at this point, there are some great features that we'd like for you to utilize. One of them is the chat box. Feel free to send comments to the panelists as the discussion is happening. And there's also the Q&A box. As questions come to mind, please feel free to submit them, and we'll answer as many as possible during the Q&A segment of the event. And now I'd like to introduce our Executive Director, Peter Arnold.
Thank you, Elisa. Welcome everybody who is joining and about to join the second of our masterclasses this summer. As you know, on Thursdays, we have masterclasses for the next 9 weeks. Last week was Diane von Furstenberg speaking with Kiel Minotti, who's the editor-in-chief of Vogue.com. So I can think of no better follow-up masterclass to that than today's with Christian Cowan in conversation with Parker Kidd-Hill. Today's theme is forging the way in the representation and celebration of the LGBTQIA+ community in fashion. And so I want to welcome renowned designer Christian Cowan. Welcome, Christian, who is joined by his friend and artist, model, dancer, social media star, Parker Kidd-Hill, who's starred in several of Christian's campaigns. And today we really wanted to highlight, Christian, the work that you're doing to support and celebrate the community and to get an inside look at some of your recent collaborations and amazing creative projects. Thank you both for being here. You're speaking to this year's class of scholars, a group of students who hope to be next year's class of scholars, and some young alumni who are recent graduates. So we're going to record this session for anybody who couldn't make it, and it'll be featured on our website. So thank you for joining this live session in real time. And so Parker, I think I'm going to just turn the virtual microphone over to you to take it from here, and we'll follow up with some Q&A at the end.
Okay, cool. Well, hello everyone. My name is Parker Kidd-Hill. So nice to meet you. I'm so happy to be talking to everyone. And I'm so excited to be talking with Christian, my king. I love him so much. And I'm just so happy to be a part of this. You know, Christian, you have been deemed a trailblazer by so many for all the work that you've done to advocate for the LGBTQI+ community. There's so many things in that. And I have always been honored to be a part of your vision and, you know, creative process. And it just feels so wonderful just, you know, being a part of this history. You know, in such a short period of time, you've become such an influential name in fashion, truly. And you're setting a new standard for what representation is and what inclusivity means, you know, just for everyone. And I'd love to hear more about your story and how everything just kind of came about, and just, you know, your process of everything and what your creative vision is and what your mission is, you know? So yeah.
Thank you so much. I'm so flattered. I mean, you're the best, and I feel so honored that you've been in so many of my projects. I think you're a complete star, as does everyone else. And yeah, I'm so honored. So thank you. That is very kind. And it feels almost funny to be called a trailblazer, because I never went into my career with like this intention of like seeming a certain type of way. And I just went in being authentic to kind of like who the people I love are and just representing everyone who I love. Mm-hmm. And I'm so glad that that's having a positive impact. But there was never like this intention to like, I feel like right now there's this huge wave of like so many people who are really like joining in to like seem like they're joining in. And like, sure, great, I'd rather that than they not. But I think it's so important to just encourage more kind of like organic representation, which is like real to the community. But for me, it just made so much sense because, I mean, like, I have not had the hardest journey. Like, I'm lucky in my life that I had a loving family who were like fine with my queerness and all this stuff, but I still was in a very, very like hardcore religious sporty school in the countryside in England. And I felt so out of place, and I struggled with mental illness when I was younger, and it was a very tough time. So I did kind of come into my adult life knowing the feeling of feeling outside of the system that you're around or that you're within. And then for me, what kind of totally saved my life in so many ways was when I got to go to London and I got to be in like amazing queer spaces surrounded by people who I felt at home with and celebrated me, and just, it felt so right. So then when building my career, I always wanted every single minute of my career and what the brand does to kind of emulate that. I always want it to be the safe space for everyone to take part. Like, I always think it's funny when designers kind of have either whitewash shows or they have no plus size people or no one who's like on a different end of the spectrum. They just have what they are used to. And I think that's so odd because the core of being a designer is to dress the human form. And like, that is not one thing, that is so many different like forms and amazing people. So like, I think to be a good designer, you have to dress everyone. Like, I think it's kind of rubbish to funnel yourself into one type of person.
Yeah, and you know, speaking of you dressing more than one type of person, the collaboration with Lil Nas X, oh my God, like that was just so iconic. You know, the casting for that was great. I was a part of that, which is iconic. Like, I loved it. And we also had like Heidi Klum and Marc Jacobs, Amanda Lepore. It just keeps going. It keeps going. There's so many people in it. And, you know, that was just kind of touching on every kind of like genre of person and every community. And it felt so amazing to be a part of that. And it was just iconic. Like, I would love if you could like talk more about that collaboration and how that was with like Lil Nas and, you know, how you guys kind of came up with the vision of that, because it was truly legendary.
Well, thank you. And when casting it, you were literally like one of the first names I remember. So
Oh my goodness.
you are perfect for like every project we do though. But like, that was
So
so much
sweet.
fun because we've been asked by musicians before to do like collaborative, like larger scale projects together. And we haven't because they would have felt like forced or a bit like lame. But with Nas, it was so obvious. It made so much sense. Like, I already knew him quite well before because I dressed him for like carpets and stuff. And he's just a total babe. And like, he is so friendly and warm. And then I just love everything that he's doing in his career in terms of kind of mixing country and rap, but then also he's Black, but he's queer and he's a man and he's like proud of all these things and fuses them all together. And it was just so easy. So it was really organic. Like, we just chatted. He's got this amazing creative director called Hodo, and we just wanted it to reflect our values. So it was just super easy. And we wanted to have every type of person and allies as well, because I want to show people who are part of this like heteronormative society who feel like they're fine to be part of it, to realize like it's really important, even if you're not part of our community, to like show up as an ally and show like and use your kind of privilege for good. So we had like a full range of people in it.
Yeah. And see, speaking on that, you know, and just having people show up as allies, you know, it's Pride Month. So here we are. I think, what day is it? I think the 10th. We're in the 10th day of Pride Month. Here we are. And, you know, outside of just Pride Month, I really want to talk about, you know, all the tangible ways to help the industry and, you know, just how we can be supportive in the industry when it comes to just being queer and open and, you know, just happy to be here, if that makes any sense.
No, completely. And I think like Pride Month is an amazing thing. We love it.
Yeah.
Hope it stays forever. But like my thing is I really want to implore more brands to like not save their support for just that 1 month of the year. And
exactly.
often feeling a little bit like kind of transparent and not real. And I really want to support throughout the year. Like, I believe I was watching an Instagram live of Shea Coulee, and she was talking about how like I'm booked out throughout the whole month and I'm like overextending myself, and then like brands aren't hiring in the other 11 months. It's like queer artists need support at other points of the year.
Truly. And I think it's so interesting that it's like, you know, every year it suddenly gets so busy during the month of June. Like, I feel like that's just a normal thing for all queer people. We're always just like, oh my God, like, here we go. Like, it's Pride Month. I'll see you on the other side, you know? I just wish that it was more of a like full year, just everyday thing. Like, we should always be supported. And that's one thing that you always do. Like, it doesn't matter what time of year, like, you're always here, you know? And it's just so amazing and iconic. So
we never really do any like proper Pride projects because it's always Pride.
There's no need. Exactly.
5 days of Pride.
Exactly. Like, you know, just it's just a given, you know?
I think it will change over time. Is like companies must realize that like because I guess in this capitalist world, like people may care about social issues, but what companies will always care about is finance. And I think they will realize that the queer community make a lot of money for people. Like there's so much talent in our industry and our community. So I really hope that just like this amazing like past few years of so much progression, I hope it shows all these companies that like we're worth a lot. We're a good bet. Like I hope people like us more.
Yeah, and like on that topic, I really want to talk about, gender fluidity and like unisex, like fashion and how you kind of like bring that all into one and, just how that is a part of your ethos, just in general. Like, how does that come about for you? Like, what was the main thing that, made you want to like do that instead of just be like a women's wear brand or a men's wear brand?
I think for me, it's like, it always goes back to being younger because those are like those formative experiences for me. And I think I craved anything that was like different from this like very, very gray seeming world that I was in before. And then when I got to like a train to London to like see everyone, I saw like such a colorful life of like people just living out loud. And part of that was just fluidity in your gender and your sexuality. Like it's such a form of expression if you allow it to be, and it should be for everyone. So I think it was even before I got to like fashion school, where obviously I also met so many fabulous people who showed me that, but it was like a given. And also my idols in terms of fashion design were very much in line with that, whether it was Jean-Paul Gaultier or whoever. It's like they've always been champions of that. So it's kind of like being built into like my mind since a young age.
It's amazing. Switching topics. So we did a recent project together. It was your fall lookbook. That project was so amazing. It had the cast from SNL. It was Bowen Yang and Chloe Fineman. Love them. I was so excited. It's so funny. Like Bowen and I, like I'm going on a different tangent, but Bowen and I live in the same building.
Oh, no way.
Yeah, and so I saw him on his way to set that day, and we both like linked. And we were like, "Oh my goodness, this is crazy!" But anywho, all of your projects are so iconic. Like that was just like one of the most beautiful things that I've ever done. And I really want you to talk about that collection in particular because it was very like ornate and gorgeous and super like flowing and fun, and the space that we were in was so beautiful as well. And I really want people to see what I'm talking about. I think we have a clip of it. Someone may be able to like press some buttons and do some cyborg things and give us a clip. Yes.
Here it comes.
Here it is, everyone.
Sorry, is there an audience?
Who's watching this?
Hello?
Just play the music.
Dress made for a star. Christian Cowan fit like a charm. Nothing but the best on my arm. Spotlight like they know who we are. Stand up, face down, stern eyelashes. Young icon, paparazzi, flashing fashion. Check the IG caption. Hollywood girls, we make it happen. P-A-R-I-S, I'm a it girl, rhinestone princess. P-A-R-I-S, I'm a it girl, rhinestone princess. P-A-R-I-S, I'm a it girl, rhinestone princess. P-A-R-I-S, I'm a it girl, rhinestone princess.
Iconic.
It was so iconic. Like that day was so much fun. I don't think people realize. I want everyone to at least get that kind of experience to do something like that, especially like working with Christian. Like it was just so beautiful and so much fun and so relaxed, and it's just beautiful. So I want you to tell me more about that because it was just great.
Oh my gosh, well, the first thing was it was so depressing for me because I was stuck like in the UK and couldn't be on set. So I was like furiously WhatsApping everyone and like video calling. But oh my gosh, I love that video because it's like the first ever kind of project we did that was like scripted and like was like I've always had a humorous nature in my work, but it's never just been like, here's comedy and fashion, like everything. So, I mean, it was just like, I love every element of the project. And I should mention, like, the core of the project was the charity that we've been working with, which we worked on the little Nast one as well, which is Rachel Cargill's charity, the Loveland Foundation, which was like fab. Love working with them. We've set up a permanent fund that benefits Black trans youth in Atlanta. So it's like, I'm like pumped about that, because I think it's so lame when like brands just do no philanthropy throughout like their whole thing. It's like lame. But
it's super important.
Yeah, it's so important. I mean, I think many younger brands think that they shouldn't do charity because they've got smaller budgets, but I think they forget that like you've got a platform on which, and we've done that with Powerpuff Girls in the past, but in terms of the creative, it's like New York was shut down in many ways. It was like cold at the time, and I really wanted to do something that like really celebrated New York, because I kept on hearing these like horrible statements of like New York's dead, and I was like, no. That's not. So I wanted it to be like just like amazing different people from there, whether it's like someone from the Upper East Side to like someone from the ballroom scene. I wanted it to be like all those things that make New York special. But it was just such a fun project. I loved it. And working with SNL people is like a dream come true, and I think kind of like a landmark institution of New York.
Yeah, it's iconic.
But for the brand, I always want it to be this like kind of melting pot of pop culture and everything going on. So I hope we achieved that. And also the song, I haven't listened to that song in ages. It's so good.
No, it's so great. Like, it's so iconic. Like, and also I don't think people saw Paris Hilton was in it as well. Like, icon. Like, it was such like an iconic thing. And, you know, speaking of icons, I just want to hear like how you've like, you know, you dress so many icons, like truly, like you dress so many people in the industry. And who are some of like the people that have inspired you the most that you've worked with? Like, you know, you've gotten to that point where you're like, oh my God, like this is happening, you know?
Oh, it's kind of funny. Like there's so many of them, if I'm honest, but like there's a few ones that like really stand out for me in terms of like landmark moments in my career. And also it's usually people I've got a large relationship with. The first person to wear my clothes was Lady Gaga, and that was like such a big moment for me because like needs no explanation. I mean, it's Gaga, and I like, for me, again, going back to when I was younger and I was like this like depressed teenager who didn't think they could be themselves. Like I was such a Gaga like stan. So for her to work with me was like a dream come true. I would say Cardi B was like a really big one for me because she's so sweet and supportive and kind, and she's always taken the time for me, which I feel very like honored. And I've known her since kind of like, I guess back when Bodak Yellow just came out or something. So it's been like really amazing to see like her take over the world. But I'm trying to think who else just really inspired. It's kind of everyone. I know that sounds lame, mother, but my dream person, I've got a dream list though now that I'm targeting, because like I feel like we've dressed pretty much everyone once, but like there's like the old guard, like I want Cher, I want Tina Turner, like I want like Elton John. I like, those are the ones I'm after now. Dolly Parton.
I love Dolly. I'm so obsessed with her.
Me too.
It's already gonna happen. You put it out, people are listening.
Oh, I'm working on it. I really am.
Yeah, I know you can do it. So yeah. Okay, so I think we should sign off with some advice. What advice would you share with the younger you when you were first breaking into the industry?
Oh, advice to younger me. I mean, I'm quite like a bubbly person in general. And I think like, and this is a true piece of advice, I think, for many like creative young people that were generally like quite like fun and bubbly. And I think sometimes going into a professional circumstance, people can sometimes take you less seriously if you are that way, even though you've got all the work and the skills to back it up. So I'd just say like, be prepared to like prove it twice over that you can do the job, but also never lose that, because I think you see some people go into fashion and they kind of suppress that element of themselves. Especially I've noticed in like the kind of like magazine world and like the designer world, and I think it's that bubbliness that will like make you shine. And I remember the first time I had Anna Wintour come to my studio, they were like you know, it was like all hands on deck. Like everyone's like, you've got to be like so strict and formal. And I just did not do that. I was like a mess, and like, I wasn't a mess, I was organized, but like, I usually they have someone like waiting at the door for her, and I didn't. So she had to like buzz, and I was like shouting to her up the stairs. And it was like,
right.
I think that genuine kind of behavior is a big asset. And then I would say, learn the importance of stretch fabric. Stretch fabric is your friend.
Yes.
It really is. Like, in a real way, if you're going to be a new designer, a new brand, if you work in wovens, it will cost you like 4 times more. So that's a big top tip. And I think you've also just got to be aware that, like, this is real advice. It's like, it's the friendliest industry and it's the least friendly industry at the same time. And so you've got to really like be open for everything, but also be really aware of when opportunities might be kind of taken from you or you're taken advantage of. So I know that's quite vague, but it's good to bear in mind. I think some people, because everyone who's in fashion dreams of being in fashion. And so when you're in it, I think sometimes people aren't as aware of the issues that might arise.
Yeah, things can get kind of skewed.
Totally. And also, I think there's a fashion is now at this interesting point where it's a mixture. It's old guard fashion, and then it's this whole new wave of fashion, which is so much better and so much more open. But obviously, the old guard do in general hold the highest positions, and so I think us younger people, when we get opportunities with them, can sometimes be a bit naive as to like how some things operate, and that you've got to just be careful with your work. Don't give it away without getting them to sign something, because I've had bad experiences and I'd hate for others to have the same. I'm trying to think of another piece of advice. I know a strong one. Get paid up front or get a deposit.
Exactly. That's so important. A lot of people love to just kind of, you know, have you there and then that's it. And they will take their time. And, you know, that's just a different thing. I mean, it happens, but you just got to be like on top of your stuff.
Oh, I remember I had, it was about 2 years ago, and I had this, it's one of the largest superstars in the world, I will not say who, but commissioned me to do loads of looks for them. And these were like couture style looks. They cost a fortune. And me and my like blind excitement was just like all systems go, like spent 2 weeks because it was really rush timeline, making all these looks, spending a fortune on a credit card because I did not have the money to do it. And they, you know, this superstar was assuring me, and their team were assuring me that they would pay. In short, they never paid. Like they never sent $1 over, and it was a huge issue for the brand because it was like a lot of money. Like, and so I would say that's like something that happens a lot to people. So you've got to be really certain of like who you're working with, and if they're not up for giving you a deposit, then I think you should kind of just decide whether you really want to work with them. At the same time, though, that's for large scale projects. At the beginning of your career, you also do have to accept that you have to do some work for free. Like I definitely did not to get your name out there, but then there's a tipping point.
Yeah, and also I have one thing of advice. I would say, you know, my whole journey in the industry, it's been so interesting, and you know, every day is different. And something that I would tell my younger self is to remember that all moments are temporary. Nothing is going to feel the same way every day. And there's always going to be something new through the next door. And always carry mascara and lip liner.
So yeah, have so much advice though, because like you're on the artist side as well, and so like you must be dealing with so many different people from the teams that you're working with that I'm sure you've had many experiences.
Yeah, it's like I'm overflowed with information all day, but it's great. I can't complain. I love this job. I love working, so I'm blessed.
It is the dream. Like it's a hard industry to work in terms of like demand and just like keeping up with it all and getting into it, but it is worth it in terms of like living the dream. I mean, like to be in New York doing the things we do is fantastic. Yeah,
it's great. So yeah.
Do we have any questions from like people? Like,
yeah, I think we do.
A few guys that I'm gonna send your way. Christian, this first one comes from Rachel. Can you talk about where you started in fashion, Christian? What was your first job and what was your quote unquote big break?
So I can tell you exactly. I was like 18 and I just started Central St. Martin's, which I'll go on to say actually is Fashion University is not an essential. I'll go into that in a second. But and I was making like these terribly made looks at home on my bedroom floor, and I didn't know how to sew, so I was super gluing them together. And then I did some shoots with some friends of mine in London, and this amazing drag queen friend of mine, drag performer Dina Lux, saw it and put it on their Instagram. And then someone from Lady Gaga's team saw that, and she saw it and requested all the looks, and then she was the first person to wear. And that was such a lucky beginning. But then my first job was someone from David LaChapelle's team saw the outfit Gaga wore and commissioned me to make a bunch of stuff for this Miley Cyrus shoot that they were going to do that actually ended up never happening. But that was my first job. And then Miley loved it so much that she got me to do the Dead Pets tour outfits, which were all crazy, but it was super fun.
Nice. This is for both of you, Christian and Parker. My question is twofold. As leading advocates in the LGBTQI plus community, do you see the industry becoming more inclusive? What steps do you think leaders can take towards this goal?
Parker, do you want to go first?
Sure, why not? I would say that, I just want the industry, whatever the industry is, I feel like that changes all the time. I just want people to listen, and to pay attention and be sensitive to queer people's needs and emotions, and how to make people feel safe. Like that is the most important thing, and that's really all that I have to say about that. Christian?
I think it's here to stay, like this amazing kind of like supportiveness that we're seeing happening within companies in the industry. But also I think sometimes people forget that the industry is global, and like we're so lucky in like the States and like Europe and stuff, but like there is so like such bad conditions for our community elsewhere. So I think people need to remember that like other places need the help too, and they need their minds opening, and like they need to show support. And then I would say the other things are kind of, it's like, I see sometimes the fashion industry likes to tokenize different kind of like minorities and like just pour a lot of money and attention into like a few individuals and then like give them all the jobs, but then kind of like not really reach out to new talent. Like I think you see that across everything, even to like plus size models and stuff, where you just see like a few kind of kill the game, which I'm loving, but like, there should be loads more. Like the industry is like $1 industry, but I think it is here to stay. It just needs to do more.
Yeah. Also, where are plus size men?
Like we're starting to see some breakthrough, but for some reason, like it's like I don't understand why, but like that needs to happen more.
Truly.
Christian, this is for you from Alex. How do you balance infusing your LGBTQ plus identity into your fashion brand without isolating your label as being seen as a pride-only brand?
That's a good question, because I think a lot of brands have this fear that it will kind of like put them into this category that others won't want to be part of. But like I can say firsthand, it's not true. Like we do so many things that are kind of authentically queer, and we've never been ashamed of that, but yet we still sell to like loads of different types of people, and many of them are like kind of wealthy Upper East Siders or like the equivalents in other cities. Like they're not being scared off by it. In fact, I think they're finding it the part that's drawing them to it. I think anyone who is a lover of fashion understands that fashion inherently has a queer backbone to it. Like the queer community has always been like kind of some of the greatest forces within it. So it just feels authentic to fashion. I think, as long as you keep it like chic and fabulous as well, like you can always do it and it's great.
Thanks for that. This is for you both from Sam. Have you personally addressed discrimination that you may have faced in the workplace? Any story about what might have happened to you and how you might have responded?
My biggest issue, especially in the workplace, workplace being me being on set somewhere, whether it's modeling or I'm, about to do something on film or on camera, anything. It's always something to do with my hair. My hair is very important to me. And I always kind of have to go in and make sure that I'm being paired with the right person, or I'm having that open conversation, just so I'm not getting to that point where I know something weird's gonna happen, and then I'm unhappy and things are just kind of watery. And then, the director is upset because I look a certain way, and, it could have been changed or it could have been changed if I had spoken up sooner. And so I feel like, the industry just needs more, I don't know, people of color. If you're booking someone of color, you need to have someone of color doing their hair and their makeup. Like, it's just certain things. I don't know if that really answered the question, but that's just kind of my thing with that. So yeah.
To add on to that, like, I think it's so important, like in fashion, that like everyone is booking people of color for like the visible jobs. And I feel like there's many brands that aren't backing that up within the teams. And like that is the thing that like really needs to like change, because it's ridiculous. Like I think it was a show in Paris that got called out for this, but it happens across so many different brands. Like that needs to change. In terms of my own experiences, it's like I definitely have far less discrimination against me. I'm white. It's like it's a privilege in terms of like people aren't, that I don't face racism of any kind. But my experiences were generally when I was younger and I was interning, and it was more kind of like, it's an issue that no one really talks about within fashion. And I don't know whether it directly falls under discrimination really, but it's in terms of younger gay men working around loads of older gay men in this industry. And like, I definitely had a number of inappropriate experiences, which I think there was this large movement of people calling it out against like young models who are female, but like there wasn't a huge amount of it to kind of like, there's a large kind of queer kind of like sexualization of young people. And I definitely faced a few experiences in some of the companies I interned with, which I never really talked about, but I should.
Yeah, like it's a huge problem, and I know so many male models that go through that to this day, and I feel bad because it's like, what can you have to speak up, and I feel like a lot of people just are afraid to, because they think they'll miss a job or something like that, or they'll just not have that connection anymore, which is not okay. Like the industry needs to change a little bit.
It's not okay that the industry makes people feel like they can't come forward, because like I definitely felt that way, and it's also very intimidating, because often as a queer person, many people have left their families behind far away or something, so then you come to a city and you're working and you've got less of a support system, and then if you've got someone targeting you in your office, it's not ideal. But
no,
that would be a great separate talk, actually.
Exactly.
I feel like that's a whole other one.
Yeah.
Christian, I don't know if you can relate to this question, but how do you stay motivated when creating? Sometimes I fall into a slump and it's really hard to start creating again.
Oh my gosh, totally relatable. I mean, like, I think everyone, even if you feel limitlessly creative, there are days when you're just like not, and like there's the equivalent of writer's block or whatever. And Parker, I'm sure you have it in terms of dance and everything, where it just doesn't flow for some reason on a day. And like, for me, I think I learned a while ago, I'll never change who I am and my rhythm of like when that comes, but I will learn the things that kind of like affect it, and I can like work around it. So like, really, whenever you're feeling it, take advantage of that time, like don't waste it, but then also learn the things that you can do that will help you get into that mood. Like if you're sitting around in your apartment all day and you're not feeling inspired, like get out, go do whatever inspires you. Or if just putting in like your AirPods and listening to like your favorite music and dancing around, like whatever it is that kind of like unlocks your mind, learn what it is and do it. For me, it's like coffee and hanging out with a dog, or like chatting to friends. I don't know, it's pretty chill stuff, but like you just gotta learn your rhythm.
Nice. Parker, you want to chime in? Anything that you do to kind of find your inspiration again?
Yeah, I mean, the things that I do to find my inspiration, because I mean, it takes me a long time to get inspired, because I'm very, very, organic with everything that I do. I mean, I would say when I'm at home in Texas, that's where I am now. I'm actually about to fly back to New York in an hour. But when I'm at home in Texas, I am able to drive a car down the highway and just, you know, have music blasting and do my thing and sing at the top of my lungs. And that makes me so happy. And just being out in nature with no one around me, it's just so magical. And I feel like I can just jump into the stars and do whatever I want. But, you know, when I'm back in New York, I love to kind of close myself off from the world because there's, you know, 80 million people in Manhattan and Brooklyn. And, you know, it just can be overwhelming. So I close myself off. I play some video games. I like listen to music as well, and just kind of have a moment to center myself. So yeah, very easy.
Nice.
Yeah.
Christian, this is from Angelina, but I think Parker, you might be able to chime in on this. Hello, Mr. Cowan, huge fan. Thank you for giving this talk. How long were you producing free work until you felt it was time to get paid?
Good question. And I would say that this is like different for everyone. And also it depends on your like circumstance and stuff. Like for me, I kind of like had it in my mind of like the people I do free work for and then the people I charge. And I really made myself available to like make anything that anyone wanted. And if it didn't serve my creative vision, then they would be charged, because almost like a seamstress essentially. And I used to make everything myself back in the beginning. And so I'd say you've got to, because you've still got to get the money to like live and like make stuff that creatively fulfills you. So you've got to like find a service you can provide, or if it's another job. But in terms of like kind of the work of dressing celebrities and doing projects like that, I would say like I really didn't charge people like a fee at least for like it was like 2-3 years for me, because I was just getting my name out there. I would charge people for material costs because I would not be out of pocket. But like my time was just like, I wanted to build this platform to build a brand upon. But like, as I said, it's completely up to you and what you feel comfortable with. I would start to escalate it. I almost saw it like the best way I could compare how I tried to get to the top of dressing like all the stars was almost like social climbing, but in dressing people. In terms of like, I'd be like, oh, I'll dress, I don't want to say names because then they'll like be put in like order, but like I would start like dressing this person and that would be great. But then I'd use that to get someone who's a bit more famous, and then I'd start to charge that person who's a little less famous, and I'd kind of like climb up that ladder, and that's how I would eventually then get to start charging like superstars.
Amazing. It's funny because that's kind of how I am. Excuse me. You know, I started off as a ballet student in New York, so I had nothing going at the time, and I kind of had to sacrifice and be like, I can't be here, because I think my last year at ballet school, I got offered to be on TV. And so I was like, okay, bye. Like, I'm going to go and do that, of course. Like, I need to make money to live in this expensive city. And, you know, after that, that's when things started to kind of take off. And, you know, it was a process for sure. Like up until today, you know, I still do things for free if it's like something that I really, really align with, and it's people that I enjoy. Like, you know, it's not always about money. That's what I've realized. Like, you can make as much as you want, whatever, but it's not gonna fulfill you. You won't die with that. But, you know, I feel like you have to be kind of strategic in a sense for your career. You know, you got to know when to say yes and when to actually say no. You know, I had to learn how to say no to things, which is hard.
100%.
So, yeah.
Saying no is
taking a while. It is a talent, and I actually say it and I practice it a lot just in everyday life. Like when someone asks me like, oh, do you want to go to this party or do you want to go out to eat? I'll just be like, no. And people are taken back by that, but I'm just like, that's just me, you know. I love saying no sometimes. So yeah.
Glam.
Very glam.
Chris, this is from Cecilia. How do you balance self-expression with environmental consciousness and low eco impact?
Great question, because it's a really hard one, if I'm dead honest, at the beginning of a brand, because sadly, at this point in time, it generally is more expensive to be kind of sustainable in your fashion. I think there are different aesthetics that are easier to do sustainably, but like mine in terms of like high glam is like hard to do. And sadly say at the beginning of the brand, I wasn't thinking about that. I was just like trying to make it. But then as we've gone on, we've just found ways to do it. Like we've found sequin suppliers that use recycled plastic. Our crystals are like the heat that's generated from the furnaces is used to like heat the factories and the houses nearby. And then there's so many different areas where companies are now putting more attention, that there are more options to kind of find sustainably sourced stuff. Like our stuff is all dyed in certified places that don't just dump their dye into rivers and all that type of stuff, because it is the most important thing. Like first and foremost in life, I am like a nature geek, animal lover. So like I do not want to like leave this earth worse than when I found it, like or when I arrived. And that's definitely something that we want to scale up as well. Like I would say, don't beat yourself up if you're starting off and you can't achieve it in the way you dream at the beginning, but as long as you're working there throughout your career and getting better and better, then you're doing the right thing.
Thanks for that. One final question for you both. You both seem to be incredibly busy with various projects and collaborations. I'm curious, what's up next for you both that you can talk about?
Right.
I mean, I'll go first in terms of, for me, there's a few things. I've been stuck in the UK 14 months. Well, I'm in Spain now, but like in Europe because of COVID and my visa was changing. So my first thing is to get back to the States and hit the ground running. My office has been operating the whole time, but I can't wait to be there physically and see my collections in person. But it's just kind of hitting New York Fashion Week in a strong way, because it's back, it's coming back this September. It's so exciting. And it's about making sure that not only do we come back, you know, full force, but also it's an amazing opportunity to like redefine fashion and kind of like what New York Fashion Week was. I think we've got a blank slate. So I want to like kind of redraw what our shows are, what we do within them. So I'd say that, and then a bunch of collaborations and people addressing, but I literally can't say any of them. So that as well.
Love that. I mean, for me, what's next? I mean, I love to be secretive. I love like having allure, but I'm working on a few projects. You will see me on some screens very soon. I'm very excited about that. I've been kind of working on some things and just taking some time to kind of move away, not away technically, but I'm so tired of being on my phone, you know, like COVID, everything, I'm just like, I can't be on my phone. I'm tired of looking at screens. And so I'm trying to like, you know, just build myself away from like Instagram and TikTok and Twitter and all that kind of stuff. And so I've been working in different industries, good ones, and things that are more impactful. So yeah, you'll see very soon. Yeah.
Okay. Thanks to you both. That was wonderful. And I know everybody watching, and I'm not sure Dolly Parton was, but if she was, similarly, it was, it was great and really informative. So thanks to you both very, very much for this session, which many more of our students and alums will see because we recorded it. So thanks for your time today. Safe travels, Parker. Thanks, Christian.
Thank you, Peter.
Thank you so much. And if anyone here watching has other questions, DM us or DM me or like whatever.
Fantastic.
Always here.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you.